Peter Boyce, New Jersey.
The President recognizes the delegate from New Jersey.
The Constitution is very clear. Congress shall declare war. I wonder, what part of that does Congress not understand? According to the Constitution, we have not been at war since World War II, since that was our last declaration of war. Therefore, Korea, Vietnam, Somalia, Iraq, not at war, though our soldiers are dying there. Korea, our soldiers, this was conducted under the United Nations. Vietnam, under SEATO, stepchild of the United Nations. In Somalia, our soldiers were put under command of a Turkish general. What's happening here? I'll tell you what's happening. State Department document 7277. You can look it up. It's entitled, Plan for Total and Complete Disarmament in a Peaceful World. This document sets forth in 3 stages the turning over of not just America's military, but the military of all the nations of the world to the United Nations in 3 stages, the third stage of which will be that no nation or group of nations will be able to resist the progressively strengthened military force of the United Nations. This is the direction that things are going. We must get out of this United Nations and get the United Nations out of America and never have American military personnel under any command except American officers, American generals, and the American people. Thank you.
Catherine Vandemore from the great state of Wyoming.
The President recognizes the delegate from the great state of Wyoming.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, everyone, Mr. President, our staff, fellow esteemed delegates, and our viewing audience. This morning we heard that since the Korean War, there has not been a legally declared war in the United States at all. We have also seen that Congress has abdicated its responsibilities fully. War has become a tool of the congressional despots, the parties, presidential usurpers, and the media. Fundamentally, in my view, there is a nexus between this violation of the War Powers Act, the 16th Amendment, and the Federal Reserve Act, as a long line of abuses have followed from this. In fact, war makes money, not for us, but it makes money for somebody. I also believe, fellow delegates and viewers, that the rise of the CIA and other secret agencies must also be related to this abuse, as we have found out that the CIA has funded, supported, and trained the very terrorists and radicals that we now fight and send our brave men and women off to war. The deceiver-in-chief, ever claiming that he is a constitutional law professor, has not once mentioned the Constitution, has not once uttered the words, God bless America, God bless our troops, has not once done anything else but salute for a photo op, and a flappy salute at that. I do believe that there are specific definitions of treason in the Constitution. I do believe that this abjugation of responsibilities and the illegal declaration of war are impeachable offenses. And I also do believe that bringing our enemies into the United States to have them tried in court is tantamount to bringing the war here, and I strongly object to all of this. Citizens of America, it's time to act. Thank you very much.
Catherine Bleich from Missouri.
The President recognizes the delegate from Missouri.
Thank you. This issue is one of great importance to me. It's actually the reason I got involved in politics. You see, I come from a very leftist background. You could have called me a socialist at one point in time. I actually did sit on the board of directors for a local United Nations association out in Santa Barbara, California. And that was when I was learning about Ron Paul. So my first protest I ever attended was an anti-war protest. And I actually hid my Ron Paul button in my backpack. And for those of you who've seen me in action since, that's probably baffling to you. But they kept telling me that they didn't like Ron Paul, and I couldn't figure out why. I think this is an opportunity, this issue, for us to reach out to those who do come from more of a left-leaning background. There are a lot of us here who associate more with a conservative or libertarian agenda, and I think this provides the Continental Congress with the opportunity to be a uniter of all American people and all people who have concerns about the Constitution. So I encourage us to move forward very carefully on this issue because it's very, very touchy. It's a sensitive topic. You see, what I see happening in our country, we have a huge movement of people uprising in anger because of these violations against the Constitution and the domestic side of issues. They're angry about the bailouts. They're angry about taxation. And those are legitimate concerns. Those are people that I stand next to in opposition to those violations of the Constitution. But you also have an entire movement of people who I associate with very intimately, who feel disenfranchised by the leaders on the left. See, I thought that a Democrat Congress was going to stop the Bush administration's war on terror. I was wrong. And you have an entire group of people who have been abandoned, just as I was by Nancy Pelosi, who have been abandoned by Barack Obama. And this is our opportunity to bring them together under one unifying message of stand by the Constitution on both foreign and domestic issues, no compromises, none whatsoever. I would like to encourage the delegates here to consider passing a resolution to encourage the free people in the states in which they reside to organize their own issue-specific town hall meetings and start having a dialogue. This issue has been demonized since I was a child. The issue of foreign policy and war, if you're against one person's belief, you're a bad person. If you're against the other person's belief, you're a bad person. None of us want unnecessary violence and death. So let's come together, have a dialogue so that we can unify as a people on the ground level. Thank you.
Ron Teed, Illinois.
The President recognizes the delegate from Illinois.
Just a comment on what fellow delegate just said. We've never seen or heard President Obama mention the Constitution, but we've sure seen and heard him walk all over it. And I would like to just make another comment on what another delegate had said earlier. You know, if my research materials are accurate, as I believe they are, going all the way back to the 1500s, it's been very profitable, and perhaps maybe the best asset of a central bank is war. They've made all kinds of money over encouraging leaders to go to war. And it's much easier to convince one president to initiate a war than it is an entire Congress. And as someone said earlier, Mr. Obama, bring those troops home. I believe it would be more accurate to say to Congress, bring those troops home. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, Harvey, New Hampshire.
The President recognizes the delegate from New Hampshire.
Thank you. I want to speak to the delegates in this room. I'm so grateful to be here speaking. Until fairly recently, I thought I was the only one who'd spent the last 30 years of my life trying to figure out what the hell was going on. I've met so many people. Well, there are 110 of us in this room, and I can assure you that all of you have more data, have studied it longer, and know more than I do, because I'm learning at a logarithmic rate. I just wanted to say a couple of things. Each of us here